What now? Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach has just ended in a majority draw, with this being the first time Tank didn't get his hand raised in the ring. So what is actually next for Gervonta Davis?
So obviously there are a lot of options for Gervonta Davis with this fight ending in a draw and it being so controversial. Obviously the rematch looks like it's going to be there, Tank versus Roach too, but Tank did say he doesn't think this fight is going to be next. He doesn't think a rematch is on the horizons, at least not next for him. So what is?
Do you want that rematch next? And if so, how likely it is that we're to see that fight happen again this year?
Hopefully we can get it before. Nah, it probably won't be this year.
Is that the one you want next?
It's definitely the one I want next, but it's not gonna be next.
Tank said in the post-fight press conference that the guy he was gonna call out after this fight was in his locker room, was at the arena, and it seems like that was Jake Paul.
Who were you gonna call out? What was the plan originally?
I think he was here.
Tank gonna do him.
He came in my locker room.
Shakur Stevenson?
He wasn't in my locker room.
Jake Paul?
Next question.
Now, we covered this a little bit ago. We said this fight actually could be a possibility, and it seemed like Tank was going to call him out. As much as we would like to see him tested because he is in his physical prime, he's 30 years old, these spectacle fights could probably wait, and we want to see him in there with the likes of Lamont Roach, even Vasily Lomachenko, Shakur Stevenson. There are other options for Tank, and hopefully he's not fighting Jake Paul next.
Like you're saying, Tank is only 30. He's still in the prime of his career, technically, pretty much, and he should be fighting some high-level guys. Of course, practically losing / drawing against Lamont Roach is halting that, and we know Tank does not have good connections with Saudi and Turki Al-Sheikh, who the likes of Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, and Timofimo Lopez are in connections with to make those big fights, and as well Shakur is part of those Saudi cards now. So Tank is kind of the only one that's away from all that noise and is doing his separate thing on PBC. And once this Lamont Roach fight originally got announced, a lot of people were hoping he was actually going to start fighting higher level competition on paper, of course, and in general I don't know if it's too likely we see Tank even fight those guys. He has stated multiple times he doesn't see his career being that much longer in general. So honestly, that's why the Jake Paul route seems like it's actually possible. If Gervonta's career is kind of close to being up, why wouldn't he take that Jake Paul fight for the money? It's going to be bigger money than most fights, especially if he's not going with Turki Al-Sheikh and getting that Saudi money. And it's going to be a way bigger event than a decent level guy or a name like Lamont Roach, who previous to his fight with Tank wasn't really that known.
Yeah, it would kind of just be unfortunate to see because we know Gervonta Davis has immense talent, one of the most talented fighters in the sport. His attributes, his skill set, he can rival the top guys in the world. And in terms of size, even though I still feel like he would destroy Jake Paul, he is outmatched there like 60 pounds. He should be fighting guys around his weight and around his level. He was supposed to fight Vasily Lomachenko, which would have been a great fight. Now, this fight was supposed to happen years and years and years ago. This was in talks from like 2018, 2019, when Loma was at the top of his game, but recently has come up back in discussions. It seemed like Loma didn't want to take this fight as of right now. It looks like he might be eyeing retirement, but if he does come back, I would love to see that Tank fight. It's just a dream matchup. It's one that we've wanted for so long now. Even though Loma is a bit older now, we still saw him just a couple years ago almost claim undisputed at the lightweight division when he fought Devin Haney. In my opinion, I thought Loma did enough to win that fight, but there's definitely a lot of options for Tank. I just want to see him fight someone at his level and something that makes sense, but I don't know how realistic that's going to be if he's really not motivated and is only in it for the money now.
Yeah, that's definitely the huge sticking point here, as especially getting the first draw of his career, the first time he hasn't been the victor inside of the ring, and now coming off of that, what really is going to be his motivation? And he is interested in the rematch of Roach, but not immediately. It's not like it's the first thing on his list, and it's not really like Gervonta Davis is the youngest guy anymore, so this is really his time, his choice. And it could be the case even you look back at him and you say, wow, he really was an amazing, talented, skilled fighter. He just didn't end up fighting the top guys and the top competition. So it's definitely best that he starts fighting the top, but if not, I think he's going to stay very stagnant here on competition and just going to go for money fights with little risk.
Yeah, and also when you look at the division that Tank now is in and the position that all these guys around his weight class and the Devin Haneys, the Ryan Garcias, it seems like they're moving up to welterweight, 147 pounds. Meanwhile, Tank is still fighting at 135 pounds. He's not really getting any bigger these days. He's pretty much much fighting at his natural weight. You're never gonna see Tank fight at 147 or 154. Like, he is a pretty small guy, so that does hold a couple of these matchups, like that Ryan Garcia rematch. I doubt that's ever gonna happen because of the weight, or a Devin Haney fight, even a Teofimo Lopez fight seems unlikely at this point. He is fighting at 140 still, so maybe he could still go up to 140. Maybe he could fight someone like Gary Antwell Russell, who just beat Rayo on his undercard, but that does seem like a big risk with not as much to gain, not as much reward. If you go into these big fights, like when he fought Ryan Garcia, that's what makes you a superstar. Having those big names on your resume, having those big events, big fights. Yes, Tank is one of those guys that will pretty much sell with anyone. This Roach fight was pretty big considering the name value of Roach prior to this fight was pretty much fighting on pro box cards and not anything near this level. So Tank will draw with anyone, but if you don't have a great dance partner, if you don't have the likes of Shakur Stevenson in the ring, it's going to be hard for him to break out of the ceiling that he's at.
Yeah, and I think that also even goes back to the point of, compared to the competition out there, Tank Davis, originally coming up in his career, was definitely one of the front runners for the next generation. But it just seems like Tank, as time and years have gone on, he stayed kind of stagnant with where he's at. He's been comfortable, kind of just cruising on these main events of PBC. And to begin with, I think most people agreed that Tank was, if not the most talented out of that select group, or at least top 2, top 3 most talented of this next generation. He is a massive fan favorite, so people are going to back him no matter what he chooses to do and no matter what fights he looks to take on for the rest of his career. But it just seems like a lot of lost potential.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Tank is still entertaining and he is still a big name. It's going to be hard to get that right dance partner. You need a guy like Keyshawn Davis, Shakur Stevenson. Even then, it's not like a mega fight, like a Floyd Mayweather-esque fight. But regardless, those are the big names right now. Lomachenko, Shakur. A Lamont rematch now might be a bit more interesting because of how the first fight went and it being a draw. People might be interested now to see Tank actually take his first loss, because that could be possible. Roach put up a good fight and we've seen him already be competitive with Tank, but I'm worried that we might end up just seeing the Jake Paul route for Tank Davis. It's not even that far out of the realm of possibility, considering Jake Paul looks desperate for a huge name opponent. Tank Davis and Canelo these days are some of the biggest names in the sport. Obviously, he tried to make that Canelo fight. That didn't end up happening. Now he's chasing Gervonta Davis. It seems like he showed up at the event. Tank was looking to call Jake out, and it would be a massive bag for an easier night in Tank's career. And the only thing that makes it interesting is the size discrepancy. Jake is just so much bigger, and Tank usually doesn't like giving up those kind of attributes. When he fought Ryan Garcia, he drained him down to 136 pounds at a catch weight. Now Ryan's fighting at 147, and it seems like he's more comfortable there. Gervonta usually has the fights on his terms, on his playing field. So if he fought someone as big as Jake Paul, that would be very different as to what we've seen so far in his career.
Most definitely, I think at this point, retirement very soon is not out of the question. We've seen Tank's activity drop within the last 3 years. He's really only fought once a year for the last 3 years in general, and he had the hardest fight of his career. It's really a question, how motivated is Tank, and what does he even hope to do with boxing anymore? It seems like he's content with whatever titles he's won, the people he's beat, and especially the money he's made. He's had the success story. He's made it out from where he was, climbed the ranks, was a protege of Floyd Mayweather, and became one of the biggest stars in the sport. And for him, that might be satisfying enough to finish his career. And he is technically still undefeated, hasn't lost, just that one draw to be a blemish on his career.
Yeah, it seems like maybe after this Lamont Roach performance, he might be just that little bit more motivated. He said in that post-fight press conference, maybe I want to fight a couple more times now that I had this experience, and I'm going to learn a lot from it. So hopefully we don't see him go out this early. He is only 30 years old, still has a lot to do, still has a bright future, and hopefully we see the best of Gervonta Davis to come. So let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys think is actually next for Tank? And if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the video on screen on Tank versus Roach.